so much for coming and doing this. This is another one of those things, going back to what you said earlier about trying to manage your capacity. I was like, I actually can't sustain this every Monday. There's too much work to do. It's going to be easy, and actually we're getting more views after with people watching them in their own time anyway, so actually it makes sense to just do them like this. Right, okie dokie, let me just get my screen sorted. What is going on here? Oh, there we be. Maybe. Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the latest in the episodes of the Green Footsteps Guide. Today we're going to be having a look at the resilience section, which starts on, I think, page 56 onwards. We've got this beautiful illustration here, which is an illustration we had commissioned around the flooding that happened at Coverack and the amazing community response there. I've got wonderful Manda Brookman in with me this morning, and Holly, who are going to be, Amanda's going to be talking about the resilience section of the guide and what it means to be resilient as an organisation. So I'm just going to stop sharing a second, and then I'm going to hand over to Manda, if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Kirstie. Right, yes, so my name is Manda Brookman. I'm the Community and Climate Resilience Lead with Volunteer Cornwall, and we're delighted to see the Green Footsteps Guide being made available and what you can see on that in relation to resilience. So I'm going to rattle through really the why the resilience and preparedness, as it's otherwise known, is important, and then point you to those sections on the guide. So the question really is, we as a VCSE, Voluntary Community and Social Enterprise sector, we're generally ready for anything. We're expected to be ready for anything, and we do a really good job. And I just want to point our attention to some of the things that are coming up that can make what we're doing quite complicated. So, for example, you might remember a couple of years ago some of the extraordinary levels of heat that we saw. So we saw these incredible temperatures in London where we hit 40 degrees for the first time in the UK, which is really, really shocking. I mean, it's very difficult for human beings to cope with that level of heat. As soon as it starts getting above that, it makes it more and more difficult for the human body to cope. And we know as voluntary and community sector organisations, we work with many, many, many different sorts of vulnerable people. So this is starting to have all sorts of impacts. The London Fire Service declared not only a major incident, but it was their busiest day since World War II. So these are really significant impacts, of course, in terms of wildfire and heat and pollution. That was what was happening then, but we know that those extreme weather events can be all sorts and cause huge levels of damage to all of our sectors. It's impossible for the emergency services to get through a situation that you've seen like that. This is in London. We know that this happened in areas beyond London as well. So we are not immune in Cornwall from these extreme weather events. We also saw not just impact in terms of too much rain or too much heat outside, but we saw IT systems going down in some of the main hospitals in Cornwall. Now, as we know, working as we do with the health sector, once the IT system goes down in a hospital, all bets are off as to what might happen next. It's really, really serious in terms of the consequences. And of course, we also know that transport lines are affected. So when these extreme weather events happen, we need to understand that they can have all sorts of impacts everywhere. And we also know, unfortunately, that most of our organisations, us included, aren't prepared for this yet. We're so busy doing what we do and doing the day job and dealing with increasing demand. Sometimes it's difficult for us to have the headspace to think about what we might do if things should suddenly spike and get worse. And of course, it's not just in our infrastructure and our places, it's on individuals as well. There are many, many impacts that extreme weather events can have on individuals with a whole range of existing preconditions, or if you're very old or very young or just not expecting it. So it's really important that we as a sector are ready for these things and understand the impact of these extreme weather events on our organisations, on our staff, on our volunteers and on the communities that we serve. So we need to think about what we might be able to do to cope with the fact that, for example, if something is happening and the statutory services are really, really struggling, as we can see when we know that lots of people turn up at A&E, for example, if it gets really, really hot, how do we respond as an organisation? So in the face of these things that we know are baked in now to the way that the world is going, more extreme weather events of all sorts and their impact on the systems that we rely on, we as a sector have got all sorts of things that we can do. Our job really is to keep calm, connect, support each other and make sure that we can actually build that resilience. we need to keep calm and join the gang. So what we know is crises will happen. We are relied on to respond well each time by all of the statutory services. And we know we're really, really good at caring for our communities. So that means we need to do it for everybody, everywhere, all the time, which means we need to be resilient and prepared for these events as well. So that means that the three things that we need to think about is, are we ready for what might happen? Can we respond well as an organisation when it does? And can we recover fast so that we can get back to what we were doing in terms of our day jobs of supporting those most vulnerable people in our communities? Fortunately, there's a whole range of tools. I'm going to come to the Green Footsteps Guide in a moment. That's going to be a critical first starting point. There are health action cards. There's a UK Health Security Agency that delivers weather alerts that can help us prepare. Definitely worth having a little look at this. There's information about what we can do as organisations to make sure we are well prepared, and what we can do for our staff and our volunteers as an organisation and with the people that we're supporting in the community. And voluntary sector emergency preparedness, where there are some really great resources, whether it's posters, whether it's examples as to what we can do in terms of flooding or heat or any sort of extreme situation. We can absolutely be ready for it by preparing. It may be that we're actually looking at working with individual vulnerable groups. So what happens to people who are living on the street or in a state of homelessness if those extreme weather events happen? Are we ready to support them? Are we ready to look after ourselves? And are we well informed so we can support them? So there's lots and lots and lots of information and support tools available. We just haven't quite got to the stage where we're completely familiar with them yet. So the Green Footsteps Guide can be our first step. What it's looking at, the Footsteps Guide is looking at a whole range of things about how we can reduce our negative impact to the climate and ecological crisis, but also how we can get ready and be resilient and prepare so that we can cope with some of those extreme weather events when they do happen, because they will. They will happen more, and they will happen more extremely. So we need to be ready. So what the Green Footsteps Guide does, it encourages you to have a look at some of the things that you maybe haven't had a chance to think about yet. As workers, as trustees, as directors, as HR, as managers, as project officers, what are you doing to make sure that our capacity as an organisation can continue despite that impact, and we can continue to support the people that we're there to support? There's the range of ideas and areas to look at in the Green Footsteps Guide, a range of things that you can be thinking about now, and also some advice onto where you can get more information and some training, which will be really valuable to make sure the entire organisation is well prepared. So 3 things that we need to think about in relation to resilience and preparedness. First of all, check out the Green Footsteps Guide. It'll talk you through some of the things you can be thinking about first in terms of your IT, your comms, your insurance, if your staff are ready, if your volunteers are ready, if you're ready as an organisation, if you're implementing your duty of care towards your staff, your building, your insurance, the fleet that you might be managing, whether it's volunteer drivers or something else, and the communities you serve. I'll be sending out, I work with Volunteer Cornwall, and we're working with VSF on this activity because it's really important. It's getting more and more important now. I'll be sending out a survey within the next month, so we can start to have a think about what we know as a sector, what we don't know, what assets we can build and what strengths we can build on, and then what else we might need to make sure we are as prepared as possible so we can be ready, we can respond, and we can recover. And then if you want to book me for a chat, I can come and talk to you in more detail about what you're doing and what you might want some help with, so that we as a sector in Cornwall are really, really ready for this. And we're linked in some of those statutory agencies, including the Local Resilience Forum, that is trying to make sure that our whole society is ready for these impacts and we work together collectively. And if you want to know a little bit more about what some of the organisations are doing, you can see this little, I think it's about a 10-minute clip called The Time Is Now, on the Volunteer Cornwall website and the Community Energy Plus website, where we can hear from half a dozen organisations, fantastic third sector organisations in Cornwall that are already looking at some of the issues around climate resilience and response to make sure that we are reducing our impact and getting ready as a sector, because we know when the time comes, we have to be ready in order to be as brilliant as we understand we can be. Thanks very much indeed.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Manda. I was just thinking when I was talking, you were talking there, just that you're so inspirational, amazing, and you really obviously genuinely care and really passionate about this area. And you're right, there's so much incredible stuff going on in our sector. We are trailblazing a lot because we have to be. We have to be resilient as a sector and adaptable to the needs of our community. So it's really, really wonderful to see that. And how great and generous is it of you to give some of your time to organisations should they require it. So thank you for that offer. There was one thing I thought we'd just have a little tiny chat for a couple of minutes. One thing that I was just thinking when you were talking around IT and weather issues. So I was on a visit last week to one of the food banks, and they were talking about the IT cyber attack on M&S and the Co-op, I think it was, that happened. And I hadn't really considered this, but they saw the direct impact of that attack on the food bank. 16 tons less food was donated to the food bank via the in-store collection points just in Cornwall during that cyber attack. So there's already real impacts of those sorts of challenges happening right now, and then that is a huge shortfall for them to make up month on month if that were to happen. So I think it's so important for us to really understand and recognise how any of these resilience issues and challenges affect every single part of what we do as organisations and as a community, that it's not just over here doing something, this trickle down knock on effect is across everything that we do. So that's why it's so crucial and really quite essential that we take action now and we get ourselves ready now. You and I ran an event last year, and it's really great to see some of it in the guide as well, around those sort of questions we need to be asking ourselves as organisations, just the basics that sometimes we forget, who has all the things we need in our communities to continue delivering those services should there be a flood, should there be a power outage for whatever reason. So it's really great to see everybody working together on this. So yeah, thank you for that. Have you got any questions at all, Holly, for Manda at all?
No, just so grateful that she's there to support people with this particular work, because it is complex and something that a lot of people haven't spoken about or thought about before, and so some hand holding around that's really, really good. I run Gleaning Cornwall, and I know that some of this resilience is a financial resilience. There's less money around to do more with, so we need more volunteers. And I think coming together on volunteer recruitment is something that we could all be thinking about, because we're stronger together.
Yeah, we are.
I think yeah, and if I can just say, Kirstie, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, thanks, Holly. Absolutely. So resilience is the ability to sort of recover from some sort of event, and it applies to all sorts of things. Preparedness, climate preparedness, is being ready for the events, for the impacts of extreme weather events that are caused by climate change. But of course, as Kirstie says, and as Holly's pointed out, all of this is connected. There might be an extreme weather event that happens 100 miles away, and if it takes out a power supply that might impact IT or comms, and suddenly we might see something down here, such as a food bank not receiving food because the supermarkets weren't being able to sell food at any point, and we don't think about that. So I think one of the things we want to do is look at what tools we've got so that people can see where all their reliances are. What are you relying on in order to be able to do what you do every day, and how vulnerable is that? If it's vulnerable, how do we have a backup plan to make sure that we can carry on moving as far as we possibly can if something in all of those systems that we rely on goes down? So it's a bit of it's a different way of thinking, isn't it? But it just means that we will be prepared. We're never going to be able to cope with everything, but there are lots of things that we will be able to prepare ourselves for, so we can essentially cope better when it happens, because we're there to enable people who are particularly vulnerable. And if it's hitting us as an organisation, we know that it's going to be hitting those individuals even more acutely. So this is absolutely, as you both say, a collective endeavour. And the more we can invest in ourselves as a community sector, working with our statutory sector colleagues, the more we'll be able to cope and rise up when these unwanted events happen, and happen they will.
They absolutely will. And to end on a positive note, we're good at this stuff in Cornwall.
We absolutely are.
COVID showed us that and all the challenges we've had as a county show us that. So it's not all doom and gloom. We're really good at this stuff, and I think we all believe in this room that we are absolutely stronger together, and by working together as a team in Cornwall, across sectors, across all the partnerships we have, that we can do really great things to protect our community. So yeah, thank you so much for your time this morning, Manda. I really appreciate it, and thank you for all the work you continue to do. Do make sure you reach out to Manda if you'd like further support. Go back to the Green Guide, like we said, the step-by-step items in there that you can work through, and also feel free to reach out to me at any point. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Kirstie and Holly. Take care. Amazing. Onwards.
Boom. Onwards.
Brilliant.
Right.
Okay, right.
Very good.
I'm going to scoot
Brilliant.
out, Holly, so that you've got a bit more bandwidth, okay?
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you,
amazing,
darling.
Manda.
All right. Take care,
you for all
both.
you're doing, my darling. Right. Cheers.
Bye.
Oh, she's so good, isn't she? I love her. I love all of her presentations. They always like rally you up, don't they, to make you feel like, yes, it's going to be okay. We've got this.